Welcome to the EQ video tip. I'm your host, Eric Forsetter. We've got a terrific show today, and I can't wait to talk to you about it. So let's jump in to the goals of EQ video tip. Welcome back. We've got a great video tip for you today, and it comes to us from David York of Fast Company. He's going to talk to us a bit about a leadership style that's both powerful and effective. And it's near and dear to my heart because he talks to Gail Miller. Gail Miller is the richest woman in the U.S., or at least she was in 2016, and she was the owner of the Utah Jazz, an NBA basketball team. Obviously, basketball near and dear to my heart as I'm wearing my Washington basketball t-shirt today. And when he started talking to Gail, Gail was about to sell the Utah Jazz, her basketball team. And he said to her, Gail, does it bother you that you're going to have to give away your ownership in the Utah Jazz? And Gail responded, I don't own the Utah Jazz. Well, David's response was, of course you do, you own it. And she said, no, I'm not an owner. I'm actually just a steward of the Utah Jazz, which is pretty incredible when you think about it, because she actually did own the Utah Jazz at the time. But she looked him straight in the eye and she reiterated, I'm not an owner, I'm just a steward. And it's important to understand why stewards are effective and powerful leaders. We're going to jump into the different use cases of how to be an effective steward as a leader in whatever you do. Our first tip, they use a because therefore model for life. Most people who are non-transcendent will say, if I do A, B will occur. And that's a mindset that's very mechanical. While it works very well, it's not something that a steward does. A steward basically thinks in the terms of, because of this, therefore that will happen. And that's how their view of the world comes to light for anyone who's out there. It's a unique perspective that is very, very important, that is in terms of being intentional as well as transcendent. We'll give you an example here. Because transcendence leads to therefore, and the therefore in this case is deep personal investment. Their personal transcendence and acting as a steward or an agent ultimately leads to investing energies in something that's bigger than them in the long run. To take that steward type attitude, you want to make sure that you're investing in whatever you're doing with a because therefore mindset. So take a moment to think about that. Tip number 2, and this is a great one. They care more about their successors than their actual success. They put effort into developing their teams, their family, their community for the long run, and put that greater good in front of their own success. This concept is one as they see their role as a temporary one. Whether the CEO of a company, the leader of a family, whatever it might be, they're investing in the future of everyone else. And it makes them both forward-thinking in terms of what they're doing and open-handing, allowing them to take on more projects and allowing others also to do things, to ensure that things that they can't accomplish in their own lifetime or their own lifespan of working with whatever company or leadership role it is, continues on to move the legacy of that company, that family, or that project to move forward. So care more about your successors as opposed to your success, to focus on the stewardness in your leadership style. Tip number 3, they're all about purpose and not possessions. This is key when we talked about Gail, who owned the Utah Jazz, but she really didn't own them. She was just a steward of them in her mind. Stewards are unique because they aren't held down by anything, because they don't own anything at the end of the day. They own nothing except their own purpose, and that's something to be very careful of and cognizant of as well. Even if you own a business today, you don't really own it. You're a steward of that as well. It makes it easier for you at the end of the day to sell it off, or to change your assets, or change your positions on things, because it allows others to get credit for what they're doing and helping build your business, your career, your family, whatever it means. It also allows stewards to step down when the time is right. Think about what happened with Jeff Bezos with Amazon. Jeff is a steward of the company, stepped down as his role of CEO. It's important to understand that the long-term overarching goal of the company or the family or whatever it is the purpose that this steward is trying to push forward at the end of the day. That's what makes them successful. Our last tip, this is a great one. They don't actually seek balance, they seek counterbalance. It sounds kind of weird. When I read it the first time, I said, how is this possible? But in fact, what they're trying to do is balance or put counterbalance for their why in terms of their investment with their how, allowing that force to each magnifying each other. It's a very delicate balance that stewards have to play with. But again, they're not trying to balance everything that's out there. In fact, they're trying to take two opposing forces to counterbalance one another and ultimately end up with the best proposition for their company, for their project, or for their family. So seek counterbalance, believe it or not, as you go through that as well. That concludes this week's EQ video tip. In case you missed some of the tips, here's a quick review of what we covered on this week's tips. So that concludes our EQ video tip for today. Try incorporating some of these tips into your daily routine. But remember, use what works best for you and personalize it for yourself. Thank you always to our great research team for providing us with some great tips today. As always on EQ Video Tip, we want to end with gratitude. So thank you for watching. We really appreciate it. Here are some resources that you can use if you want more information on EQ going forward. Thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Thank you.